This is what my focus is on today. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to share with you something really interesting. Coaching as an essential skill for generations and multi-spectrum application across work, family, and relationship. Now, a while ago, I was invited by different people to different parts of the world to speak about coaching. And I remember one thing that, oftentimes we think that coaching is only just for leaders, for senior executives, or for individuals who, are up there in organizational level. But today, coaching is becoming widespread, being utilized by parents, being utilized by youths, utilized by families, teachers, and all across the workspace. More and more people are realizing the requisite power of coaching. I remember one time there was a story many years ago when I was invited to meet this group of people from the Philippines. And it was this little village that's unheard of. And when I went to that village, every place about the village was kind of torn down. And there were stones all around, there were rocks all around, and they were trying to build their home. They have a lack of infrastructure, there wasn't internet access. So we were tasked to do one thing, to bring hope into those places. And that was when we began this project called Project Hope. And I remember seeing this one boy here. This was about 13 years ago when I met this little boy. And when I saw this boy, I said, hey, and he had so much joy and so much laughter. And when I look at his eyes, you could tell that, it's one that's so sweet, so innocent. And when I had a conversation with him, it was just a beautiful flow of conversation. And even though his command of English wasn't as strong, but we communicated. We knew how we felt. I was using a lot of metaphors with him, using a lot of imageries. We're building sandcastles, we're building shapes and objects. We're communicating in a way that what most people think it's communication, which is using words. We're using a lot of non-verbal communications. We're using a lot of metaphors. We're using a lot of imageries. And in that process, something magical happens. The beauty of coaching isn't in what's spoken. The beauty of coaching is what is present. The beauty of coaching is that magic of conversation taking at that very moment. And I always remember when I left that place after building the houses, it was, we spent days and nights trying to clear the space and to build houses for the individuals there and for the people over there. And when I left there, the families of the boy said to me, say, Jedi, you got to leave your fingerprints here. So they created a little space, a little cement area, and said, Jedi, put your hand here. Because when you come back to this village, I want you to remember there's always a place for you in our hearts. A little word of engagement, even though we spoke very little, even though we couldn't understand, and even though there was a language barrier, but it's something that transcends even the language, which is the language of love. Coaching, it's about taking that process with the client and loving the client for who they are, and about helping the client to find that sense of acceptance to who they are on the inside of them. And that's the beauty of coaching. One thing I want to inspire all of us is this: as coaches, the beauty of coaching is that we love people. Coaching is a people's business. Coaching, it's all about loving people, paying it forward. And I love what Janine said earlier is about the ripple effect that we're making positively around the world. Yes, there is a part of coaching practice, a coaching business, where we're building an income stream for ourselves and our families, but there's also another part about coaching. It's the impact that we're making around the world. Just a few months ago, we made an impact in the peoples of Philippines where they were struggling. A lot of them were facing a lot of crisis with the pandemics going on. We were able to help through our partner organizations there to really help inspire and teach and equip coaches with the coaching skills. In fact, one of our partners sponsored a whole bunch of coaches with coaching skills. We credit them in the ICF competencies, in the ICF trainings, and help them empower them so that they can empower more communities that they're touching. And this is what I often say, that coaching is an essential skill for all generations and multi-spectrum for all applications across work, family, relationships, learning to leverage the requisite power in times of chaos and uncertainty to move mountains and defy gravity. Defying gravity, it's like taking the weight off our shoulders and saying, hey, we know that the world around us, it's in complete chaos. There are a lot of things that's running around us, and it's that the pressure is surmounting. But how do we face each day? How do we face the storms in life, Johns? How do we face all this? Well, the big thing is this: we can utilize the power of coaching. So today we ask this question: is coaching an essential skill? Is it a hard skill? Is it a soft skill? Or is it a non-essential skill? Today in the workforce, many people are thinking, okay, coaching, it's about communication, and communication, it's about soft skills training, but that cannot be further from the truth. The reality is this: there isn't anything soft about coaching. There isn't anything hard, but coaching is an essential life force for the organization. Think about this. Every single organization needs to be able to communicate with clarity to the people within, internal stakeholders, and external stakeholders. And to be able to communicate well, they need the ability of coaching. For leaders to lead effective teams today in a distributed workforce, with virtual teams, remote teams, and gig workers all around the world, we are living in a time of asynchramatic workforce, which means that we're plunged in a time period where we need to engage our people even much more. Leaders have to engage with them much more. In fact, there was a recent poll that ICF posted that showed that increasingly employees want more external coaching for their people. So coaching today is an essential skill. Just yesterday, I was speaking to a group of coaches, a community of coaches as well, and I taught them one thing, that the critical leadership approach for the future economy is coaching. And coaching, it's about having that sense of conversational mastery. Coaching, it's conversational mastery. Why is coaching so important for us today? It's because the sense of us being able to have mastery in a communication and conversational approach, to understand words beyond words, to understand that, hey, I don't have to be able to articulate my words well. I don't have to be able to speak in fluent language. I don't have to be able to speak in sophistry, in a latitude of different phrases, but I can speak simply with that sense of brevity, but having that connection with the individual, allowing the connection that goes deeper, speaking what we call the language of the heart, of the human connection. So when we think about this, one of the things that I enjoy so much is about looking at coaching from a multi-spectrum approach. And I call this the multi-spectrum process. Coaching as an art and the science of conversation. And when we think of conversations, often we think about conversations in a very linear function. And we think about it as a way of communicating our ideas and our thoughts, but we don't realize that it's multi-spectrum. Sometimes I call this a full spectrum approach to communication. Why is that so? Because coaching transcends the boundaries of language. So I'm going to share with you 5 elements. And these 5 elements are an extract from one of our programs that we run around the world to help equip leaders, coaches, youth workers around the world. And these 5 elements of conversational flow are this. Element number 1, it's the element of transaction. The element of transaction. When we have a conversation with someone, we're transacting something. There's an exchange that's happening. Sometimes I call them that exchange, the conversation exchange is happening. I'm sending a message to you and you're sending a message to me. The individual or the client is trying to tell us something. The community is trying to tell us something. The parent, the youth, the child is trying to tell us something. The transaction is happening. The transaction of a need, the transaction of a want, the transaction of hope, the transaction of possibilities. There's a sense of transaction that's happening. The second element is the element of translation. So when we converse with someone, we're translating that information into our own perspective, and we're making reference in line with our own worldview. So we're translating the information that we're receiving into our own world. Are we aware of it? And the beauty of coaching conversations is that when we become aware of how we're translating another person's word, we begin to appreciate that there are diversities of ideas, diversities of language, diversities of culture. The human race is a race of diversity, but there's beauty in diversity. And this is the beauty of the human race, where we can enjoy and appreciate different facets of life, different traditions, different approaches, different life philosophies. the element of translation. Next is the element of transmutation, and that is the element of what we call like a filter. When you have a little membrane or little filter, there's a little thing that allows things to pass through and doesn't allow the rest to pass through. All of us have this transudation within our minds. When we receive an information, when we receive communication, there's something in our minds that blocks or passes through and allowing us to create a connection. Sometimes when we look at an individual, we say, "Hey, I don't know why, but I just love speaking to you. There's something about you, even though I've just met you for the first time, but there's something about you that I feel connected about." And that's the element of transudation. Number four, the element of transduction. And that's the element of the element of process getting from one place to the next place, getting from one place to the next place, the process flow. And so oftentimes in the communication process, one thing happens. For anything to move forward, for us to get from a present state to a desired state, there must be this sense of movement. Conversations is about moving. It's about moving someone to some place. It's about moving the heart, the spirit into action. And finally, the element of transformation. Every conversation has the potentiality for transformation. And I love what Janine says that the seed, it's really like the seed. Yesterday, I was telling the coaches from around the world that the seed, as small as a mustard seed, but inside it rests the greatness within. Greatness is not what we do, but greatness is who we are. It's about a sense of being. Because out of that seed, within that seed lies the potentiality for greatness. And that transformation will surely happen. Too often, we want to force transformation, but we don't realize that transformation will happen. We just got to rest and realize that transformation is happening in that moment. So the beauty is this: when we as coaches and when we are helping equip the world, whether it's youths, workers, families, with the ability to communicate better, with the ability to utilize coaching conversations, we're able to create transformation in the workspace, transformation at home, and transformation at play. Now, I'm going to share with you two very simple keys as I wrap things up for all of us here. And these two keys I found them to be really, really powerful. Key number one, the expansive principle. Not expensive in terms of dollars and cents, but expansive in terms of the largesse, of the plentitude, of the plethora of things. Because coaching as a full spectrum approach covers multi-spectrum of communication. At the workspace, it's about a professional engagement amongst internal and external stakeholders. We have to change and approach our conversational style. At home, it's the interplay between different family roles and the vertical range of conversations. Now, if you're a parent, the way you converse with your spouse is a different language. If you're conversing with your children, it's a different language. If you're conversing with a parent, it's a different language. So there's a vertical range and there's an interplay that's happening. I've seen families, having done a lot of family coaching as well and a lot of youth coaching, I've seen families whose parents growing up, spending 20, 30 years of their life focusing in their relationship with their children, the downward relationship, but neglecting the relationship on the side with the spouses. So only to realize when the child has grown up and leave their home and to be together with their own partners, they realize something has changed. That they found some emptiness within themselves because they spent 20 years building a relationship downwards, but they forget about the horizontal relationship with the spouse that they've neglected for the last 20 years. And at play, the interharmonics of groups and social impact. Engaging with our friends, engaging with our social group, engaging with the community at large, empowering lives, going beyond and above ourselves, at work, at home, at play. And this is the expansive approach of coaching and how it can impact many different lives. In fact, today, I have a whole YouTube channel to teach coaches around the world for free, right? Teaching them, empowering them the skill sets from ACC all the way to MCC. In fact, there was a coach who wrote into me and said, "Jedi, I really appreciate your videos because, I couldn't afford coaching. But when I watch your videos, I was able to learn how to utilize the coaching approach and watch your demonstrations to really impact lives." In fact, there was one student that came to me and said, "Jedi, after watching your videos, I applied for my application with ICF and I passed my PCC." When I hear these stories, I'm encouraged because the videos are created to help and change lives. And I hope these videos will go out there to spread the message of hope, the message of love, and the message of the conversation of mastery. So there's three different areas here. The expansive principles of the verticals, that is the separation of professional states to create safety. The expansive principles of the horizontals, that is the liminal conversational flow, and the expansive principle of the oblique asymptote, the depth of the heart and of who. What is an asymptote? It's a little line that we draw on a graph. It gets closer and closer to the infinity point, but never quite touching that line. In the same way, when we have conversations with our clients and our communities, when we go deeper in the depth of conversations, we're touching the very heart of the individual. And to that degree, we touch the heart of the lives. To that degree, we begin to see transformation. And that's the beauty of this expansive principle. And the last principle I want to share with all of us is this principle of commonality. The sense of coaching conversation is about building commonality with our clients, with our communities, with our families, with our loved ones. And commonality is key in building trust and relationships and building that safe space. And sometimes I call this the quantity factor, going beyond the formalities of words and our words as our very bond. And sometimes, people say, how can I trust you? How can I trust your word? But if we have that quantity factor, your words become the bond. And there are three different things that commonality is built upon: competence, character, and care. How professional we are, how competent we are in our skill, our very character that we possess, and how we care for others. As coaches, I often tell coaches is the limit test of coaches is in our ability to care for others. Like how Yogesh and how Janine has done around the world, making impact. The sense of care, helping, giving, the sense of impacting lives. And this is what I often say: the deeper the level of trust, the deeper the depth of conversations. So today, I'm going to leave us with this one thought: that the magic of conversation is in coaching. Because coaching is an experience to be experienced. Coaching is an experience to be experienced.